talking about making a power source and other shit like that. And other things that wanted to. But that's the first group to straight out state we the reason why you keep seeing actual these things and not your own people testimony.
Pleased, he seems to be a very warm. This is the first being that I've ever come across that seemed to have feelings rather than that computer-like being that I've experienced. I don't mean an individual being, but there seemed to be such a coldness about all of the other ones I've experienced. This person seems very warm and very genuine in his extension of help. He thanks. I communicated to him that everyone here would like very much to share information, so on and so forth, with him, and he said that he seems to be at the command module, so to speak, of this building, and he says that this is Gothar's more or less central receiving area, and that he's in charge of a team of beings that simply go out into the universe where there's intelligence and try to make contact in order to bring back information. He says that from what he's gotten about Earth, we are also seeking communication because we feel more or less alone in the universe, and he said that this planet has felt this need of communicating and exchanging ideas scientifically and so on and so forth. He says that he will work with anyone who desires to contact him. He stresses that the breathing that is being done here is one of the integral parts of that make it possible to communicate, the raising of this energy. And he says that there cannot be too much breathing going on. He says that the energy cannot be raised too much. There's nothing to worry about it, and it's something that should be done by everyone here on a daily basis. He says that most of the information he has to give will have to come through what we would call subconscious states of mind, but that with time, with practice, communication can be improved. And he says he's surprised at how good the communication has been from our explorers and lab itself. He considers it to be one of the key places on the face of the earth that he finds communication with. He says there are six major areas on the face of the earth that he feels strong communication from, and that he's trying to disseminate his people to these places to increase the energy levels so that there be more communication.
Very good. Ask if he has any recommendations beyond the breathing that we can do to improve our conscious communication.
Okay. He says that awareness increases all energies, and that it is important to realize, to get in one's mind the idea of what one wants to have happen. In other words, not to have this idea sometimes when one is trying to make contact, but rather to practice experiencing the concept of this communication. It's hard to put this into words, but I'm sensing him. It's basically just that you have to be aware that this communication is going on from the point of view of several times a day thinking and being aware that you are being communicated with, and desiring during the day and during waking periods that this communication level should be opened. and also as well as sessions, so to speak. He says, he says that it's, well, he's showing me something. I see this is what he sends his people out with. It looks like a metal, gosh. Trying to describe it, it's hard for me. For some reason, it's a familiar shape, but I can't get the words in my mind. It's cylindrical and pointed. Conical, yes, but not very deep. And it has a long thing. It looks like a radar dish is what it looks like, and out of the center of it are coming this thick, long pointed, in other words, it's not a thin little spire coming out of the middle of this. It's a thick thing looking almost like a rocket or a missile, and on the outside are these things, something like I described earlier, that encircle it like the steps in a firehouse. They like the steps in the front room, that go round and around in circles. There's something on the outside of it goes through, and he says that his people travel out on the beam of this device, and that let me see. I'm going to ask him to be more specific as to how we can make contact with him. Because I'm not. He's showing me these different things, but I'm not. I don't know how to describe it. I just don't understand them very much. So I'm going to ask him how we can make contact so that we all can look at this thing when we want to and be in contact with him.
Also ask him if we can build such a device here on the planet Earth.
Okay.
Oh.
He says that this is a radio frequency beam at its lowest vibrational state, and that it vibrates. There's a device inside that makes this frequency accelerate to such a point that I'm just seeing trillions of cycles. I mean, it's, and what he says is that well, I think if we had this beam aimed into space, it doesn't have to be. I'm getting that it doesn't have to be powerful in the sense of just thousands of watts of power, but it has to extend away from the lower atmosphere of the planet, and that what his people do is they get into similar mental states, and then they think of this beam and they try to hook onto it, so to speak. They try to become aware of it intensely, and as they become aware of it mentally, they unite with the pulsations of this beam, and their vibrational state.
As I was stating to you, the beauty of living in the virtual radar of PAVPA, Gila Force Base, over the horizon. The concept of which they show and they live and so forth. And why the movie They Live came out when it did.
Accelerated to such an extent that they can project portions of themselves outward much easier and more beneficially. He says that we could do the same thing, but that the trick here is getting the variation in the beam from low frequency to high frequency somewhere in the range that can be most beneficial. And he says that we can experiment with this, but it has to do with the range of vibrational frequencies within our human structure, and that we are in a better position to measure this than he is. And that it's really a matter of mentally identifying with this thing.
I'm going to vary now the sweep pulse frequency under which you're operating and see if you can detect a clarity or a lessening as I do so.
Okay.
And report it as you experience it and as he reports back to his clarity of perceiving you.
Okay. Seems to be getting clearer the faster you pulse it. Still getting clearer. Leave right there, it seems very clear.
What happens when I go past it
then? Okay.
Just fried my brain, nigga.
At a certain point, it's getting, if there was a moment there where it didn't seem like it was producing that acceleration of awareness, but no, that's definitely increasing the energy. That, I just was told by him that that's optimal for communication with him, his planet and his people, right where you were. Right there.
Point.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel? Does it feel comfortable to you?
Very much so. Could it be a little bit louder? Yes, right there. Is much better. He says that what his people do is they practice with this. This is almost identical to what he's sending out, I'm getting. Except that...
His is a radio frequency setting?
Well, his starts off at this radio frequency, but he says that when it gets up to the extremes, it can't be heard even by his people, and certainly not by ours. I understand his people have a higher limit, the range is higher. But he says that the value of it, in terms of learning, in terms of being able to use this as a tool, is diminished in the beginning stages by not being able to hear it, certainly. Although later on, the frequencies that you can't even hear can be used and moved outward with. He says that what he does when he's training people to use this frequency is that he's totally he makes it overwhelming to their senses in such a way that, well, I guess through use of volume and through use of, but I don't know how he remains Well, he says he communicates telepathically with them.
Very good. Now ask him if we can come and visit him again then.
Yes, he says we can come and visit him anytime, that we are quite able to use the beam that he's got, as well as constructing our own beam, but that this frequency that you're dealing with right now, he feels is a very good frequency to work with, and that the moving from the slower rate that you started with, the slower sweep, to this is very important. And with individuals, it would be good to vary the loudness almost to the point of being very loud, so as to overwhelm the other sensory inputs. And he says that in order to communicate with him, all we need to do, he says, is think of the word Gothar, the city, and that immediately, and think of this beam, and we should be able to reach this place.
Very good. And thank him very much then.
Okay.
We're very happy that we've been able to make the communication.
All right.
And then release and ask for help to return slowly back. All right?
Okay.